Sorry. Everybody, welcome to our third meeting of Iconographers, monthly meeting of Iconographers. This time I decided to talk about the method, which is important, which is, I don't know, crucial. And at the same time, it may become so important that it's becoming overwhelming and it's bothering us sometimes. So I prepared some images as always, and I'll start sharing them right away. So let's begin. No, let's begin without images first. When we speak about the role of method, first of all, I want to share some images made by other artists, not necessarily iconographers, because I'd like us to see ourselves from a distance. And sometimes iconographers feel so privileged as like being a white bone, as we say here. So some special cast of artists who knows what to do, who are creative on demand. Kelly, I have to mute you, and who are just, I don't know, have a very long tradition. So iconographers have this feeling very often, but criticizing the colleagues from the lay world, from profane world, we sometimes forget that we have a lot of things in common. We should have even more things in common if you start comparing ourselves with them and think about ourselves and art in general in terms suggested by our predecessors. And now I will start sharing the screen. And yesterday, my friend, Ivan Pulvirari, sent me this vase and he said, Philip, wow, look at this one. How bold, how cool, just two colors, such a powerful shape, but how much bravery these artists have. And yes, I agree that these ancient guys had the gut. But moving to our time, we can start thinking of works of art made in ceramic, and we can start thinking of probably ourselves trying to do something in ceramic. We may go to a master class. We may produce something where we are guided by some master who tells us to do this or that. Or the same thing about painting. We can Google something like DIY painting ideas and see pictures like that. And colors are bright, and the best thing, we can do it ourselves. We don't need to invent anything. Everybody will have finally a good picture, slightly different from one another. Yes, you will do it slightly more green, I'll do it slightly more yellow. But if you take this image as a model, we most definitely will achieve some acceptable result. It's not a canon, it's an idea to follow. Is it good? I would say yes, because anyone can create a piece of art to hang somewhere, and the one who is working is free to choose colors and other details. So lots of freedom, great idea for inspiration, and guaranteed piece of art at the end. Why not? Well, we can also try doing furniture DIY. And I Googled this one. Well, we do need some instruments to produce it. We need to know how to saw and other things, but as an idea, this thing allows you to achieve a good result with no training. You'll need to have some method to think like, okay, this will be the number one, this is number two. We need certain precision, but you don't have to be a designer of furniture or to study art. You just follow the model, and every visiting friend in your home will say, wow, John, you produce such a cool thing. What a contemporary piece of furniture you're having now. Well, that probably is something which has nothing to do with iconography, and you probably are tired of like looking at things which seem to be alien to you. But I just wanted to speak about how many people come to iconography or come to learn iconography having the same understanding of icon writing or icon painting. You take a model, you learn how to mix paint, you follow certain steps, and here you are. Here is your icon of Saint Athena or Athena. You learn how to do it, you perform, and you have it. Or here is an icon of Saint Archangel Michael on the right. Good. It's a real icon. It has all the necessary qualities. It has some gold, highlights, and shadows. And did he follow or she follow the method? I guess so. We see a painting done in layers. We see everything which an icon should have. Well, you probably may say that this person has oversimplified the model. Okay, let's take a more professional one. And I see here a lot of work. I don't see if this artist actually wanted to say something. He or she wanted just to follow the model from what I see. And I guess it's mostly the approach I've been talking about in the beginning. You have a model, you follow it, you take the red color, you have the red color here, and it's done. So probably icons like this or like that are very common in our time because artists use the method, but this method helps them to move faster and to receive the result, which is guaranteed. So probably it's something you receive instructions about and you arrive to a certain result. So kind of a DIY thing, similar to what you have receiving a piece of furniture from a store. You have instructions, you follow them, you have the piece of furniture done. So this guy knows the method. He's the purpose of creating an icon, and it does look like an icon. What else do you want from him or her? What's the requirement? But when we look at the model, somehow we see that it wasn't just the pure instruction. It was something more than simple a method applied to the image. Something else, some specific ingredient, the one on the right is missing. But most of icons, again, of our time are created like that. They do follow instructions. They tell you it's canonical, traditional, hundreds and hundreds more specific words demonstrating how good they are in following ancient technology or old methods, old professional approaches, the egg yolk, etc. But if we move forward and we look at the icons, we just see what we see. We don't have a special book near the image which would be telling you, okay, here the egg was taken for a special chicken living in a monastery, and this yellow ochre was grinded from a place which is near Mount Athos. You just see what you see. And when you look at this, I'll ask you a question. Maybe you'd have some thoughts, if you don't mind answering. When you look at this image, what do you actually see apart from the method applied? So he or she followed the method. That's exact. Nobody would argue that. But anything more than the method, do you see here? Anybody, if you like to say something? Maybe I'm wrong. Yes, yes.
To me, icon is you see the spirit of the person that's doing it, because it's a journey. So I see a feeling more.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what you wanted, but I see a sort of a surprise or emotion in him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but another question would be, was it a conscious decision of the artist to have this image, to have this emotion, or not? Because
Probably.
from my point of view, I only see him performing certain instructions.
Yes, very technical. Is that what you're saying? It's very.
Yes, and I'm asking if you would have any thoughts. What did this artist try to put on top of the technique?
Accuracy.
Accurate execution of the technique. Okay. Application technique. Yes.
Philippe?
Yes, Sarah?
I see an intensity, well, the one that we were looking at before, not the previous one. An intensity in the eyes that feels a little bit unique to this one than I would maybe expect for somebody who's doing a copy.
But here's the thing, the copy is where you delicately and carefully try to repeat what's been done by your predecessor. Here it's different. You know how to do it. You just perform how you were taught and how you know to. So it's not.
I think that this one is, there's a lot of competition going on for, gosh, should I look at those red lips? Should I look at the line work around the eyes? The nose is, I mean, everything is like competing for competition, where the model, there's no doubt that the eyes, you're drawn to those eyes. And there's a much more, I mean, the way he did the eye, you know, the lines above the eyes and everything, it just makes a completely different statement. So, I mean, I think that's what kind of bothers me about the one on the right, is there's no visual hierarchy there, just a showing off of lines.
Nan, you're criticizing. We are here not to criticize. We are here to analyze and to learn, okay? Like, why is it good or why is it bad to do that way, whether it's okay, whether it's not. So again, we are here not to say, oh, he's a fool, he doesn't know what to do. I guess lots of iconographers of our time were taught more or less the way this iconographer was. So probably, I would even dare to say 90% of schools would be teaching you a certain method. Well, this probably is slightly rude, more raw than many others, but yet many would say you follow the method and you are saved. And I'm trying to, I don't know, discuss this thing or try to doubt it. Because when we move forward, we see something which is very much done with the method. Yes, you clearly see every brushstroke, very technical also, very similar to what we saw before, yes? Everything is technically very repeatable. You can distinguish where it starts, where it ends. You clearly can repeat it when you know how to apply the paint. And yet, even with this technicity, when you look at this icon, you are captured by her view, by how she is looking at you and how you're looking at her, because this author utilized the method to speak to you. He wanted her to be alive, even though, again, we can say she's obstructed, stylized, and many other things, yet she's alive. She's much more talking and appealing towards the beholder compared with the previous. And yet, pure method. Yeah, I see no specific creativity which would be breaking the method. It's highlight number one, highlight number two, red lips, and other things. So very strictly following the method. And yet, the method brought this person to have a good image. So if you're painting an icon, the method will be helping you. Because if you don't have a method, you may easily produce something like that. And here, yes, I should give a quotation from Sarah. This is the imitation. Because this person, or from Deborah, sorry. Well, this is where the person is trying to replicate or imitate what he or she would see on the model, but without knowing the method, you replicate the appearance and you don't know how it's built. So you create some approximate idea of what you think you see, and it looks old for anybody. It will remind you an icon, but technically it's not done as an icon, so it's not working as an icon. I don't say it's impossible, but in this case, it's a replica which is not working because it's not done properly. And in this case, I would say the artist was trying to capture some views, certain type of eyes, I don't know, particular site of the image, but we are not even sure whether it's image of Christ or not. So technically, this iconographer, let's call him this way, or her, was trying to play with some sacred subject, like image of Jesus, but without knowing how this is supposed to be presented, we see a plain person, we see a replica, or that one, like, okay, I can say it is a contemporary thing because it shows lots of contemporary brush strokes. And probably if I knew who would have done that, I would say, oh, this is a great master whose, I don't know, whose images are sold for millions. But when I try to analyze it visually, I see lots of movements which don't come together. So he definitely wanted image to have some relationship with holy image, but not really knowing how it functions, he or she has produced this as a decorative piece for your, I don't know, living room, something like that. So our eyes wander around without focusing. So this is a failure for iconographer, because this amount of work could result in having some more connected, more gathered together image. Compared with this very little, you see my hand behind, image of genius iconographer Anatoly Eteneyer. He's born in Moscow. I think he's about 70 something now. And we clearly see he had a method, but his method was just an excuse to make his own version of the old image. And how he did it? He used the means of art. So these are the means of art which tell us whether should we trust this image or not, and where should we go, where should our, no, how to say, where this iconographer or this artist is willing us to see what he wants to demonstrate us. He does it with his art. And it's our choice whether we, I don't know, follow it or not. We can say, we don't believe it, or we believe it, or, okay, can I ask you, maybe you can verbalize what would you, how would you describe this thing? Not like, okay, 15 nails, but how would you describe what you wanted to achieve with this? Yes? What would you say, thinking of this image? I feel this, or I do not feel that. And it's not that I want you to interpret your feelings into words, but I'd like you to verbalize the target he had, the goal he had with his image. Any thoughts? Deborah?
Okay, why not? The first thing I see is the cross. I mean, it's just so bright and everything else. Well, first the metal and then the cross.
Okay, but if we try to start seeing from above at this artist at work, and we look at him working and we say, well, he's willing to achieve what?
I think he's emphasizing or de-emphasizing the garment, you know, for sure, and he wants to bring out the facial and the hands, the human touch.
Thank you, Mary. Yes. Okay. Why would he do that?
he wants a personal encounter.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, a little more, because again, it's not that we are trying to speak about music and say, well, in this part, he's speaking about, I don't know, leaves, and this part is speaking about the sea. No, no. We are trying to think or define his goals. Like he wanted to achieve that result, and he did it through this. Oh, okay, through this, through the whole image, he wanted to get there or here. Yes, Sarah?
When I see this image, I see a lot of references to folk art, of bringing something that maybe you're used to seeing in a really nice church setting into a lower setting, something very personal, you know, where you see a lot of the imitations of gold, but used with this tin work that's put on with I'm not calling him unskilled, but as if it's put on with a less skilled hand, and as well as the brushwork that's not defined as much. So I see this as trying to bring religious imagery to a common level.
Okay, but can I say, but by doing that, he makes it more acceptable and more appealing. So bringing the image to the level of people, making it more simple for acceptance, this artist makes it more communicatable with, more appealing. Yes, I totally agree with you. Yes, yes. So this oversimplifying thing, yeah, done with artistry. Yes, look how beautiful are these very simple things. He says, well, guys, here is what we believe in, not in gold, not in super special accurate highlights and shadows. We believe into the testimony, living testimony of faith. Okay, thank you. Any more thoughts? Any more people willing to say some words? Because we have few more images. Anna, yeah, are you raising the hand? Yes, because I don't see you against the light, but I did see your hand.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me. As the others have said, and to build upon what they have contributed so far, there is an intimacy established through this humility in material, and the simplifying of the details reinforces the presence of the martyr, that they are that he's trying to construct a relationship with the viewer through showing in the most primal, simplified way, without sacrificing the message, the most direct medium to show the witness of the faith.
Thank you very much. Yes, that was great. Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Again, and there is no right or wrong answer. We are trying to read what he has written between the lines, or like what he wanted to achieve doing this or that. And I guess we're trying to learn again. We're not here to criticize, we are learning what could be the goals for an iconographer. Because what do you make depends on what you want it to become. Because you may wish to have your image to be highly decorated and to be representational and to have lots and lots of details, but you may wish to have something different. And to do this, you subordinate your decisions. So you have in your brain, in your mind, a certain method, which first you can always slightly adjust to the goals, to the purposes you're having right now for this particular image you're painting. So it depends. If it's a jar, it can be bold, bright, two-colored, and it fits perfectly the goals we have for it. If it's an icon, it should work like one. There are not many contemporary icons I like showing, but this, I think this one is from somewhere in Serbia. And we all would, or many of us would know the model, and yet this artist knew how to to review, to retell the same story in a way that we are appealed to, we are touched, and we are being spoken to in a very personal way, like the one by Anatoly, because here he is trying to hide a little bit all the unnecessary things, and even the gold is not bothering as it's included well in the message. It's part of the message. And that's almost it. The last image I'm showing, it's my personal, I don't know, pledge. Please, if you're willing to paint icons, don't make them too pious. Don't transform your images into something demonstrating luxury of execution and beautiness of your subjects, because I have a feeling that this transforms your food into a dessert. If you put too much sugar, it's not accepted seriously. It only is accepted as something you can stay without easily. It's a decoration. Why should I trust this piece of decoration? I want something substantial to talk about or to deal with, and to nurture me. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. You may wish to say some words. I don't know if you're willing, and whatever.
Thank you, Philip. I love your words, the way you, it's amazing. And I have not done any iconography in a year. I just kind of left it thinking, I don't know. And the folds in the fabric always daunted me. All the details, I didn't understand them, and I would happily let them go because it doesn't
Cover them
speak.
with paint. Cover them with paint and let them go. Like the guy I've just shown you the image of Christ. Yes, you don't see the folds. You see some black area. It's there, but you don't need to look at details.
Yes, I remember one time I was so frustrated and I went in with black trying to really dark trying, and Olga sat down, may I help you? And she sat down and she said, never do this again. I thought, okay. I remember well, because I was just frustrated. And so I'm wanting to get back because it speaks to my spirit. I love John the Baptist, and so working on this one was a blessing to me, and your words. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, that was too much. That was too much sugar yet, but thank you. It's a pleasure to hear that. Okay, any more thoughts? I don't.
I'm not really clear on what I'm feeling, but I
Good.
would just add that the icons that you showed, which at the beginning were very haphazard, a lot of color. They didn't, they were missing so much in my vision compared to the two that you showed us later. One, the small Christ, or the martyr, and then the one of Christ. And I'm trying to understand, I guess, in myself, what it is about those two icons that speak so forcefully and directly to me. And the others just, I love that you said it's like sugar, too much is just crazy. It tastes kind of good, but it's just you don't need it. But, I think as you said, the schools of iconography, and, we've taken different classes, some from different people. And how does one arrive at that? You are at a place, and I know you've done this for many years, you and Olga, but I'm struggling to find that ground that speaks to people, that is not necessarily a copy, but conveys the feeling.
I would say
I don't know if that's clear
no,
or not.
I will I interrupt you right away because I just want to try to make it a short answer. Yes. And I guess somehow a lot of people, and especially teachers, got the idea that we should follow every line which is given to us by our teachers. But the case is that when our predecessors were doing these things, even very strange icons were their own decisions. And if you go to some remote village in Tusheti, Georgia, and they may have a priest who may be talking to you about God and faith, probably without too much theological education. But the way he will be talking to you, or she, will be the very personal approach he is sharing with you. So it's his own decision to call John the Baptist that way and to describe his life in this way. So when you are following some old master in studying a model for your own work, it's not a problem of copying or not copying. It's question whether it's becoming your own decision or you're doing it because you're told to. Like, okay, I understand this nose, yes, has to be here. I understand this fold has to be like that, because that's a relevant way to put it. So you must be trusting what you are doing. Then it can influence others. If you're doing only an instruction, okay, I'm supposed to do what? Step number 55, highlight number 13. So we see it in visual art. We have a bad problem. Artists who write words, writers, they can copy and paste. Nobody will notice. With artists who use the brush, show their process, do you want or not? Or you hide your process, but it still will be some mess which you cannot hide. So every movement of your brush is readable, is readed by the one who is looking at your image. And if you are in hesitation, it also will be clear. If you're proud of your skills, it will also be clear. So whatever you put into the image is taken from there by the beholder. That's it. So if you feel like, okay, I've made, 5 times the drawing for this image of Mary, I know how to draw her well, but I think for my board, I should probably elongate her just teeny tiny a little bit better because she feels better that way. Yes, again, it's not about making it very contemporary or your self-expression. No. It's adjusting what's been done before to our circumstances. And as in the morning, we also talked about this with Australians, it's not a question about using modern colors or old ones if we use the old images as references and for destination. So that's where we are supposed to arrive, probably using different means. We can use a train or helicopter, but if our icon is put near the old one, and if they belong to about the same type of values, if they promote the same values, they are in the same destination. Because what you want to achieve is visible. What choices you make is visible, and that's what people will see. Like, okay, here I wanted it to look special and contemporary, and I exploited this thing. But everybody will see it and like, okay, he had some fun with this image, but what does this stone have to do with the rest of the image? Not sure. So if you know how to incorporate some piece of plastic in an icon, great, because that can be appropriate way of using it. But if you don't. So it's a straight speech. It's someone talking, or you are talking to people who are around you. And you can't lie. You must not tell lies. How it works.
Thank you.
Thank you. A pleasure. Yes. Kelly, thank you for joining us. Sorry for your internet connection.
That's okay. I was having, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes.
I was having trouble with the connection. So,
Sorry.
so I will, I'm not sure what this is Eastern time or Mountain time. I'm not sure. Which one are you on right now?
We only have one in the evening and one in the morning. So
Oh, okay.
this is the
All
only
right.
version for the, yeah.
So you're not going to be, this is the only Zoom right now, right?
Yes, yes. The
Okay,
previous
okay.
one was like 12 hours ago. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I joined right in the right time, but I lost connection with after you had said this is it, and then there
Mhm.
was conversation, so I don't know what was,
Okay, you'll see the recorded version. Okay.
yeah, yeah, that'll be
that's it.
fine. How
Okay.
are you?
Good. Thank you.
Good.
And yeah, okay. So
good.
any more thoughts, Deborah? Yes.
I don't do Facebook very often, so I haven't really joined all these conversations, but you had a question, you had an image, a painting, and then it said, what is an icon? I think you had a question. What makes an icon?
Really?
have-
Okay, I could.
Well,
maybe
I just thought,
maybe.
whoa, that's just way too much for me right now. Gotta run. But it kept burning in my head thinking,
Ah, I like
Philip,
asking
yes.
questions, not answering them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, but I thought, okay, it had a halo, and anyway, you should look back, but I thought I want an answer to that one, Philip, because I've been asked that myself. People say, what makes it a legal icon? What makes it a legal icon? And who's the judges?
Wow.
For another meeting?
No. I like the years I've been doing it. I have, for myself, have created a short answer, which of course is like a shorter version. Like we all know, like what, Kelly, you're trying to join us again. Like, what's the right way to understand the Judaism? Yes, it's the part of Torah, you can say, standing on one leg, something like that. So yeah, all right. So for me, what are I decided we have 3 requirements an image should meet in order to be an icon. And thinking of an imagery, first, it should be some recognizable subject, which should give no doubt regarding who is it. And this person has to be recognized saint, well, at least by some Christian denomination. Okay, so this group of Christians asked me to paint this person whom they consider saint. Okay, if you trust them, you make it. So it's recognizable and no confusion image of someone who should have the title. Yes, this is Saint James, somebody. The second type is that the type of imagery, if we think of an image for prayer, should not try to be a photograph, as in this case, your mind will continuously try to compare what you see on this particular realistic image with someone you know, with some film, with something you would meet in a real life. So it probably should be abstracted. Even though, again, in the 19th century, early 20th century, I know lots of paintings, not sure about other countries, but I saw in Russia, which were done in realistic, I can say, style, and yet were deeply spiritual images. So it's similar to what we can say about this icon of Christ of 6th century. Yes, he's realistic from Sinai, but yet he is much more than just realistic portrait. So I didn't see any good copy of this icon, and I never saw anyone approaching this in our time. So I suggest you start with making your image abstracted, not pretending you know how to depict real image of Christ. It will help you to avoid excessive attention to the features. Sorry, it's getting too long. And the fourth part, which was, let me remember.
The third, I think.
Yeah, okay, yeah, the third one. It should be functioning as a tool for prayer, because there can be different images of John or James made in different manners, styles, and other, but the one for prayer should suggest you focusing on it, not to be distracted by details and features, not recall some illustration style, but just to be a good tool for focusing, which a mandala can also perfectly function for. So these are certain visual properties, qualities the image should have. So not distracting you, keeping your attention focused. And evidently, we are speaking about a spiritual image with supposed Christian content and subject. So this was the fourth. Because many other things we put on top, they come from our understanding, but from visual or practical point of view, we have no specific relevance, like how you express this, how you express that. But if all these three conditions are fulfilled, I guess it is possible to arrive to a moment when we have a good icon.
Thank you.
So maybe, I don't know, too contemporary or too simplified, but yet I think it covers a lot, because if it's not possible to confuse with anything, it definitely is someone whom you know. It belongs to the tradition, yes, we make it part of the tradition. If we make it meditatable at, focusable at, then we also borrow from this tradition what we can borrow. So
could we compare the iconographic tradition and what makes an icon a liturgical instrument to the music we use in liturgy? For example, you have the Greek Byzantine chanting, but I've heard a liturgy which also incorporates Slavonic with Greek Byzantine, but both function liturgically. And for example, Rachmaninoff had a very spiritual way of delivering these moments of the liturgy in his prayers. Could we say that when we revive the iconographic tradition using, of course, skill and technique, we should, not try to just repeat the models, but function in this way of reviving the tradition as they have done musically as well?
I don't know music enough well to say something about that. So I will refrain from saying any specific opinion. And as I know, Deborah asked me some general requirements, which I would apply to any image, including contemporary. So yes, I'm sure that producing something today, we should be speaking to people around us. We should try to use like the image I've been showing you 10 minutes ago, yes? The oversimplified sometimes, or other means to let people feel, okay, it's done for you, it's done for me. It's not just a historical reconstruction. I am taken into consideration when this image was produced. So yes, I agree with you, but I'm not good enough to speak about music, so I'd rather not. I know from my experience, as someone again who doesn't know music, when we were in the New Skid, it's North Upstate New York. It's an Orthodox monastery, and what surprised me was that usually monasteries are not very cheerful places, not places where you feel like, oh, life is good and things like that. But we had a course there, and occasionally we were, I guess it was Monday evening service or like Tuesday evening service, so something very routine. There was a Vespers. But when they were singing, they were all smiling. And I feel like, okay, guys, you probably do believe what you're doing here. And that was a great experience for me. I'm not sure I can find this, I don't know, video or something, but they do look like they produce music for themselves, for people in their church, as something not just contemporary, but it's the way which make you feel rejoiced while chanting traditional liturgical melodies and words. So I didn't answer you, but I just brought up my own experience.
Philip, oh, yes, Sarah, go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Deborah, yes, your suggestion.
Okay. I have a question about, okay, you're saying certain artists, the simplicity of it spoke. I think, I mean, God has created us all so uniquely. There is some music that is so simple and can touch your heart. But then there's other people who love music that's just all over the place. Same with architecture. I've been in so many different churches, like those amazing cathedrals where you just look up and you're in awe of the technical amazement of getting these ceilings so high. And then I've been in a little Quaker church where there's just such simplicity, and I feel God's voice there in the nothingness. There's no images anywhere. So I just think God, he speaks in so many different ways. I mean, you might be talking about artistic accomplishment, but maybe somebody loves the icons that got all the dessert and sugar because that's what they need right now. They're low and they need some kind of, so I'm just kind of wondering, I mean, doesn't it's our God, Holy Spirit speaking in us to what we need to do with that image. And if we're really seeking to portray for God's glory, then hopefully that comes out in the icon, no matter if it's detailed, it's what we needed at the time to do all these little dots behind Sarah. I see all those dots on a rug. I think, wow, so it's, I don't know. I'm grateful that you can say, forget the folds and thank you, because that makes me crazy. And I'm thinking, Lord, I don't want to do these folds. It's like this. And so anyway.
Okay, I'll send you a couple of images which have no folds or folds are oversimplified, so you don't have to worry about them anymore.
Thank you.
Well, I would just turn your question on a different side, because there are people who like this, people who like that, but they ask you, exactly you, please, for our this particular huge or little chapel, what do you think is the most appropriate? And it's your own brain which starts thinking, okay, guys, what's the best solution I may suggest you for this wall? Yes, for this building, for this altar, I don't know. And that's how it happens, because if you only have the method in your brain, you say, I know what to do. You follow step number 1, 2, 15, 55, and I'm producing a perfect icon. But I suggest you really talk to these people, you try to consider what's their faith is about and what's their place is about. And then you do fulfill what you consider appropriate. But again, they may not necessarily like what you did or anybody else. So it's always very human. And we can only say, okay, guys, you know what? By now I've done that, that, and that. If you agree what I've done, you probably may agree with what I will do for you. But again, it's so very human. So, okay. Sarah?
Actually, I'm glad you spoke first, Deborah, because I had some thoughts kind of related to that. This is something that I've been thinking about, is why am I emotionally, spiritually drawn to some icons and not others? And been thinking about this for a while, and something that at the beginning of what you spoke about, Philippe, when you showed some of the first images, I was thinking that, and this is a little more existential, so forgive me, but that perhaps our method doesn't begin in the studio. Perhaps it begins in the streets as we go about and live our lives, and we, try and interact with God, try and interact with people as we see things going on, and bring that into our art, our iconography. Thinking about how the people that we're painting, how they would have interacted with the world, or would have interacted with the situation, seeing them as interacting. Anyway, that's just sort of one of my thoughts that I've been having lately, that perhaps method is not necessarily, doesn't begin when you pick up the brush, but as you go about your life.
Well, I probably try to rephrase what you're saying. You may say like you disagree or agree, because we're talking about something extremely practical: brush, paint, board. So to make some jam, you need to boil the fruit. You necessarily have to, or you have to try it out, or you have to go through certain procedures which make one substance become the other. So in order to apply the paint on the surface, you need to know how to do it. And if we are speaking about the visuals, we speak about the way image functions and how this functionality depends on the application. So if we, at the end, want to receive an object belonging to a certain class of objects, we should look and see, this class of objects is produced more or less through this kind of method. So it doesn't begin on the street. It begins when you try to think how to override the existing method with what you have on the street. When you want to modify the existing rigid system and change it into the one which will fit, which will suit your circumstances. So yes, the street is one thing, method is different, but the most interesting thing is when they merge. I would say that. Because the method in itself is a good thing. You know when to start, we know how to mix colors, you know how a little egg or much egg is enough to hold your paint on the board. So that's what the method is. It's the technique. You know it, it should be in your hand, or at least you can learn it from a book. But how to use it, it's a different thing. And that's, again, it should be an excuse for you. The method is an excuse, is an opportunity to do something. And the last thing I'm saying now, to answer you, sorry, very often it's good not to know some technology because you don't know what's not good for it. Because then you will not be aware of problems it implies on you as a profession. So it's another approach, yes? Somebody will tell you, okay, this is okay to do, but this person will not tell you what not to do. And you may probably go so far that technically it will not be a problem. Yeah, it will still be resistible, but it will just be something others never done because they knew it's not good. They knew it's not possible for this profession for some reason. Nobody knows why. So good not to know as well.
Can I just say I'm so grateful to hear all of these different insights from you. I have to say it's such a privilege to
For
even be
all
able
of
to
us,
hear and
all of us,
interact.
okay?
But I really like this image that you brought of the village priest. How does he communicate with the congregants when he preaches his sermon? That's such an elementary principle to always, because I think, I mean, I'm still at the apprentice stage, like very, very rudimentary beginner. And so I guess when you learn, you get very focused on technique and, you know, the proficiency of how, you know, and then it becomes, as we saw, sometimes with too much clarity, it just becomes about the design rather than the message being communicated. So I want just to thank you for just reviving these embers of conviction, and thank you. I am very grateful to hear your ideas and insights.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, but I don't know, it's a process you go through. And the more you understand that people before us were so much freer than we are, and that's so, I don't know, helping to be, I don't know, to feel joy. Because when you all the time, when you're doing something, you feel constraints from that side, from that side, from that side, it becomes a burden for yourself. But when you come to a Novgorod museum and you see a wood carving like that, you say, oh, and they dare to do that way, maybe I can do something as well. So it's, again, not about decent or not decent way. It's about expression. It's about different values, which we may be having, rendering certain image. And it's interesting. So they probably wanted our eyes to feel, are they crazy producing these images? They probably were crazy for certain purpose. So yeah, thank you. Okay. But again, the more we learn from predecessors, the more free we are. I think that's it. Okay, any more thoughts? Complaints? Objections?
Well,
Yes?
when I first started doing icons, it was like relearning all the classical things that I learned, and it was overwhelming, thinking, okay, I can't do this, there's no shadows, there, this and that. And then there was other people in my class who had never done any art, and there was something so sweet and free about, okay, just do it. And even though sometimes the eye was a little off or whatever, there was a sweet spirit in this, like a child's drawing. And I think that's how God kind of wants us to come to him. And that's maybe why those simple icons, there's something sweet about the spirit of just wanting to portray the image. Is that what you're saying? Sort of like sometimes the technical just gets in the way of the message.
No.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
no, it's okay. No, what I'm saying, seeing these, we can say childish, or we can even sometimes use the word primitive icons, which I would just say probably, yes, less sophisticated or less classical, let's call it that way, more provincial, which I think also would be fair, is to wake up some freedom in ourselves, not to feel like, oh, I can do even this, but to choose among more different means to utilize. Like, oh, I can use even this to knock somebody's door to bring this person to God. But from the other hand, I also wanted to say something to answer you, Deborah. You were speaking about people at the class, yes. And here's another problem, that unlearning is a difficult thing and almost impossible. So you were speaking about people who never knew how to speak, I don't know, Georgian, and they would be speaking Georgian with their childish accent, but you probably have learned one of the dialects of Georgia before, and you would compare, meant always in your brain, what you're doing now with what you used to do. And this brings you into a situation of constant juxtaposition, like, oh, this is right or this is right. Both cannot be right. So it's okay, it's this situation. You may have seen somewhere Coptic icons in museums, or I know, I even have one at home, St. Petersburg, but you cannot talk the way they do, because for you, it's not a natural language. You cannot talk the language your we have just mentioned this priest from Tusheti village. Yes, you cannot downgrade yourself from knowledge you have. And therefore, you have to just find and adjust your instruments to the new tasks you're having. It's more difficult. It sometimes requires 5 times harder work to relearn something in a different way. And I've had students from Fine Art Academy who in 5 minutes could draw a standing male figure with all the bones, muscles, and everything I would never do. But when I ask this person who knows perfectly all these things, for your particular, I don't know, format, I suggest you to make your figure slightly fatter or longer, and maybe this hand can go that way because it's this gesture. He would look at me with the eyes, which would say like, why should I? Because for this person, the figure is so natural, you can't modify it. For iconographers, it's opposite. Yes, it's always natural, but just a reason to be modified. Like you always deform, yes, you always change things to make them more expressive. So like, okay, 2 different worlds. So yes, you can't downgrade. Rose? Oh, no, I thought you were like waving your hand. Okay. Good. So, all right.
Thank you.
then.
Thank
Oh,
you.
my pleasure.
That it really said a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for coming. So the next is going to be the 24th of September. And I hope I will bring some images from Swan 80, and which are really going to be a treasure, I guess. But from what I saw, they have a great museum. It's a region very high in the mountains, so very few invaders arrive till there. And you really can't invade there. They have narrow mountains, so the troops will be killed one by one, and they had enough stones to kill the troops. So like, you can either come peacefully or you are just being killed. So, and the next one will be about, I guess, the means of art, which can help us to work with this method. So means of art, which transform a method into real process of work. I think that could be a good topic. Okay, so I'll post again. Well, the link will be again the same and the timing will be again the same. So you can just save the link, and 24th of September, we'll see each other. And otherwise I should like post it on Facebook or somewhere else. Not sure. That's it.
If it's posted, then more recently I can just get it, because looking back for it.
Okay. All right. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if nobody has any more objections or thoughts to share or considerations, I probably will have to say goodbye. And thanks everybody for joining. The video will be shared in Facebook. And the YouTube, we have a special playlist, which is called Monthly Meeting of Iconographers. That's it. Okay, sorry for. All right. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Good
Thank you.
information.
Bye.
Very
Thank
helpful.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.